Check this out. This is the circuit board out of a cluster from a mid-2000s Chevy. And working on this, I'm going to steal these motors to make some other stuff and show you how some other circuits work. But I figured while we're going to do that, while I've got this on my bench, I'm going to be using all of my electronics tools. And there's a lot of really good videos on YouTube about electronics and toolkits that you need and how to use them, but not all of them pertain exactly to automotive, because we live in a slightly different world than what the rest of the world does. So today we're going to have a look. It's not a comprehensive list. It's not absolutely every single tool that you may need or may not need, and some of them are good, some are not so good, but we're going to look at the tools that I use to do some basic circuitry repair and a really good starting point if this is the kind of stuff that you want to get into. So first, let's take a look at this. This is a microscope, a little electronics microscope. This is something I'll definitely be upgrading. This one was about $50 and it's good, but yeah, well, take a look for yourself. So this is just hooked up to my laptop, and when I want to inspect something, I can use this stand, which is, it's a little bit of a cheesy stand, but it kind of works, but really nice for being able to zoom in on the board or on components to, ooh, that doesn't look so nice, that's a little crusty. Really nice for being able to zoom in on components to see, did I solder it correctly? Is there a cracked solder joint? What exactly is going on? So you hold it wherever you need it, and then focus it. So this one, you know, it's not bad for the $50, but you're probably looking at a $300 plus price range before you get something that is really useful, especially if you want to start looking at crazy stuff like pins for a CPU or USB connectors. So something that doesn't get talked about a lot, definitely been a lifesaver a few times for me. And of course, you've got your soldering irons. And you know, you can spend as low as 20 bucks on them, or you can spend a few $100s on them depending on where you go. So I have in my shop just, you know, the basic soldering iron that you plug into a wall, you set the temp, and away it goes. This one here is really handy. It's a little bit more expensive, but it comes with a built-in heat gun, and I've got a few different accessories to change the size of the end of the heat gun there. You can see I've melted some stuff to that. First day I had it, I melted through the wire a little bit. You got to do that kind of stuff, you know? It just breaks the tool in. What's really nice with this is we have adjustable temperature for the solder, adjustable temperature for the heat gun here, and the heat gun is really imperative for doing soldering on chips, especially as you get, oh, look at all those tiny little pins. Would you want to try doing that? That tip is bigger than what multiple pins combined are. So the heat gun would be really, and I'm going to show you how that works, really good for desoldering and resoldering these types of things. Another really handy tool is an oscilloscope. This is a little 2-channel one. This one's kind of nice for actually working out on the cars, and you can do some bench testing with it. Less expensive one here, it's okay. I've got some benchtop models that work really nice for this, or the actual automotive ones that, again, really quick, really good quality, and they're going to give you a slightly more reliable reading than these will. But you know what? At least these, they get the job done. And of course, you got to have your wiring. This is solid core wiring, so this is really good for little breadboards and PCBs, electronics like that. Pay attention to the gauge of your wiring. And I've always gone, yeah, I can just go higher, right? Because it'd be bad if you were too low on the gauge, like if the wire's too thin. But if it's a little bit thicker, it's not going to hurt anything, right? Yeah, good luck soldering that to those tiny little precision circuit boards. Learn that the hard way. And of course, I've got a few different screwdriver kits. So this one is that's a precision screwdriver kit, mostly. We're missing one. Got a multiple end kit here, so we got all kinds of different bits that can go into that. These were a couple that I got kind of earlier and working on the electronics. And as I got more and more into the electronics, these precision bit kits really became handy. This one comes with some tweezers, and it comes with an extender, magnetizer. Really nice, bunch of different bits. Really essential for doing any type of electronics work. Contact cleaner, isopropyl alcohol works really nice, especially the, I think it's the 99% stuff, the stronger stuff. But this works good too, especially in combination with your wife's toothbrush for cleaning up electronics. On the subject of the cleaner, do not substitute brake clean for electronic cleaner. They are made with different chemicals. This stuff, much safer. I have a computer mouse that is no longer the same and will never be the same again because I used brake cleaner when I didn't have electronics cleaner around, and it just melted everything. Now we're getting into the goodie drawer. So of course, you know, Q-tips, they help clean things. We've got a few different things in here. Flux is really important for getting the solder to flow correctly. Solder, I've got a few different types of solder that I keep around. You know, some of the good stuff with the lead in it, a few different diameters, 0.8, 0.6. Kind of depends what I'm working on, how thick of solder of the gauge that I want. Because if you've got too thick of a gauge working on some precision circuit board stuff, it just nothing turns out quite right. A little bit of thermal paste is good anytime that you need to be able to put a cooler back onto a module or heat sinks. You don't want to mix the thermal paste and thermal pads. That's never a good thing. A little bit of jumper wire, and this is some pretty thin stuff. So this is for when I need to replace damaged PCBs or corroded PCBs. You can take a look at some of my previous videos where I did this on a object side detection module. This stuff is really cool, and I don't feel like it gets talked about nearly enough. This is just it's a copper mesh strap, and what you do with this is it's for removing excess solder. So if you got solder somewhere it's not supposed to, put a little bit of flux on this, you put this on the board, heat it up, and the solder will just suck right into that strap. I'm going to show you how all this stuff works in a minute. A syringe here, this is good for getting your isopropyl alcohol right exactly where you want it. And you'll recognize some of these tools. These are some different ends for that heat gun that I showed you earlier so that you can control the airflow, like exactly where it's going to go. I've got some different specialty screwdrivers as I've been working on some different stuff. These ones from a Nintendo Switch. That there messes with the old GameCubes and the NESs. I've got some fiberglass pens. These are really good for gently cleaning that green enamel off of printed circuit boards. A desoldering tool, that's really cool. It creates a little vacuum there. So what you do is you push on this, you heat your solder up, and then press this button. And it creates a vacuum that pulls that solder out. So that works in conjunction with those little copper straps. I've got some more magnet wire here, or the enameled wire, so I can create jumpers depending on how much amperage has to run through it. I got a few different gauges of that, how thick it is. Different tips for the soldering iron is really handy depending on what I'm trying to do. Some different gentler pry bars. There's all kinds of these of different configurations and different shapes. They're semi-disposable, but really important to use these instead of metal pry bars. Of course, got to have a few different styles of precision tweezers that have very sharp points on them. Very handy for holding things or getting little bits and pieces off your boards. And I've got, you know, some different standard regular pliers in the needle nose, and flush cut pliers are hugely awesome. Don't cheap out on these, and don't use them on, you know, metal wire. Because they're a flush cut, those edges are a little bit delicate, but they're great for circuit boards and for zip ties as well. Here is a really cool tool that I think a lot more car folks should have, and this is a variable power supply. I can turn that right down. I just got a little light bulb hooked up right now, but this is fantastic for bench testing components, sensors, and coils, and it's really quite cool because I can adjust the voltage. You can see that light bulb getting brighter there too. Neat, eh? Wire strippers are a big thing, kind of important. And especially a decent set that you like. Not a huge fan of, I did a really nice job of not breaking any of my wires there. Not a huge fan of the automatic ones, but you have to have a set that you're comfortable with. I do like these ones. They've got a little plier end there, so you can grab stuff and pull on it. A very important tool for any type of electrical diagnostic work, whether precise or imprecise, is a multimeter. So this is an inexpensive Klein. I think this one runs around $50. This one's manual ranging, so you have to kind of know what you're looking for before you set it. The slightly more expensive ones have auto ranging features. Whatever works for you. I've used all kinds of them from $50 over to over $1,000. Your flukes are expensive, but they last forever. I'm quite happy with the Klein brand. Whatever you're comfortable with, but there are a few accessories that you do want to get with this. Typically, whatever leads come with it, I end up tossing, and then I grab these ones, and you'll notice they plug into the meter on one end, and then my other end has banana connectors on it. And then I have different leads that I can plug in and interchange. So these are kind of your standard leads. I've got some with precision tips on them. However, you'll notice that tip doesn't look super precise because, yeah, it's busted off. The big, heavy, fat probe ends with the tiny little tips doesn't work so good. So I use these back probes a lot. These are really, really handy. And it's basically you just have a needle and a banana connector. And it plugs in like so. Alligator clips are really, really handy too. These are more for working on the car. These little tinier ones are good for the electrical stuff on the electronic side of things. And here now, you're able to check for things, you know, if this was powered up, we could set this to our voltage and we could check voltage. A lot of automotive runs on 12 volts or on 5 volt scales. We have continuity, so we can test our diodes. Sorry, we can test our continuity here. Play songs. We can check diodes. We can check resistances. The continuity is really nice if you're trying to test traces on the board and see if you've got a connection. See? That trace is good. So there's a really good use case for the continuity. You do just have to watch. The meter doesn't send out a whole lot of electricity, so it works nice on little situations like this, but when you're on actual automotive circuits, a continuity test, it can tell you if it's bad, but it doesn't necessarily confirm that it's good, if that makes any sense. But a really nice feature of that is when you're looking for shorts to ground. So if you were testing wires in a harness, and you may have just a tiny little rub through on that harness, it's sometimes touching ground, sometimes not, the low current capacity of the meter itself, sending a signal for the continuity is a really good test. This meter doesn't have a capacitor function on it, so that's not so good for checking our caps. If you're measuring capacitors, get a meter with a capacitive measure function on it. And for when you're on the car, of course, test light is really, really handy. Don't use this a whole lot on the electronic side of things. Definitely handy on the electrical. And this particular old girl here has seen better days, so we're going to make a video pretty soon on restoring this. And we're going to make a few semi-modern modifications to this thing to make it even more useful. So I hope you liked this. I hope you found it helpful. Let me know, is there any really awesome tools that I didn't cover here that you really like? And if you want to see how to use some of the more unique tools here that we may not be as familiar with, make sure you check out the next video that covers exactly that topic. Thanks for watching.